RLCS Season 6 was my favorite RLCS thus far, not only because I got to go and actually meet and hang out with so many incredible people, but also because of the actual series and the actual tournament itself. For example, every single match in the first day went all the way to Game 5. Evil Genius's sort of run through the losers bracket and their amazing series versus PSG, and all of the great, depressing post-match interviews with the losing teams.
Coming into LAN finals and biffing out twice is a pretty shitty feeling.
And then, of course, Cloud9's, I would say, historic takedown of the unbeatable European giants, Dignitas. So I've spent the past few days rewatching the RLCS content, and in this video, what I really want to do is break down why I believe Cloud9 won RLCS, because this is, I think, a question a lot of people have had, and so I really want to go into the details of what it took for them to beat Dignitas. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Leave a like if you do, and let's just jump right into it. All right, so I'm here with Jake now, and Jake is a former RLCS player. You made it to LAN 3 times with the Chiefs, and you're currently now coaching as well as streaming, and you can just kind of explain sort of those areas where you're involved in.
Yeah, so I'm currently coaching on Gamers Ready. That's been a ton of fun. I'm streaming as well. It's a very bad time for Americans. That's okay. I'm running a YouTube channel as well, trying to upload like weekly tips and things. And then I've also got a Discord where I'm running a mechanics course for people and just letting people like talk, find like-minded people. It's a lot of fun. I'm really trying to get myself out there.
That's awesome. So I'll put links in the description of this video for you to check out any of those things. So basically, you watched RLCS. You weren't there, but you watched it, correct?
Yeah, I was watching it from home at 5 a.m. with all the OCE boys. It was a lot of fun.
Nice. Okay, and so I went, but one thing I realized was like being there and then rewatching the series was like a completely different thing, because I rewatched the content, like really focusing on what was happening to try to understand how Cloud9 managed to take down Dignitas, this like dynasty of a Rocket League team, right?
Yeah.
That was on such a tear. And it's just like, I think a lot of people are wondering this as well, and I think we can point out some helpful stuff for people. But when I was there, it was like the hype of it all had just like blinded me to like the details of it.
What's actually going on.
Yeah.
It's like you experience the energy more when you're there, and it's more of like a real experience with the crowd, and you care less about what's actually technically happening, and you're more just like feeling the whole vibe and energy.
Yeah, and it's interesting if you rewatch it, especially Carpet is like pointing out specific things, and I was like, I wasn't even listening to him.
Yeah, no, you don't even listen to the casters as well. It's nuts. It's so immersing, and it's just such a different experience.
To get into some of the details, we're going to go through just a couple points and try to make sense of this question of how they managed to do that. So the first point is this idea of momentum. The idea of coming through the lower bracket is like a thing in Rocket League history. So 2 teams have won from the upper bracket in the 6 seasons of RLCS. 4 have won from the lower bracket. So statistically,
only IBP and Dig, yeah.
Yep, only IBP, and I guess it was Dignitas when they were Gale Force and they beat Method. But then you've got Flipside and Northern Gaming coming through the lower bracket in 2 and 3, and then in season 5, you have Dignitas coming through the lower bracket and beating NRG, and then here in season 6, Cloud9. So the momentum of coming through the lower bracket is a thing. There's something there, like you automatically have the crowd, I feel like, and there's more to that obviously than just this, but like coming through the lower bracket is like people want you to win really bad. They want that bracket reset, right?
It's a weird situation as a player as well, because the players all know this as well. Like the lower bracket momentum is definitely a thing. And you can feel it, and you know that it's annoying to lose the winners bracket and then come up against a hot team in the lowest bracket.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny. It's like, it's like we don't want to go to the lowest bracket, but at the same time, it's like when you do get knocked down there, you're like not too bummed because you know you can start building that momentum up again.
Do you think Cloud9 purposefully lost the first series?
Oh, hell no. So then, here's the point. It's like, and you kind of know, but it's like players' prides as well. It's like, if anyone thinks a team is throwing, players are too proud for that. No one is purposely doing that at all.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Cloud9 just came off a really close series with Weedham Girls. They come down to the lower bracket to play NRG, which was crazy at the time to think like the 2 best North American teams. One's going to come 8th. And that was so close that Game 5 overtime, like normally Cloud9 are really, like everyone makes fun of them for being like robotic, but you could also say like stoic.
Yeah.
they're very neutral, but like you could see them sweating after that game, and that kind of like energy would have definitely like propelled them through the lower bracket.
So maybe this gets into their playstyle a little bit, but wasn't there something about Weedham girls? Does that have to do with momentum? I think that fits in the momentum category.
Well, like, yeah, so like the Weedham girls point is a great point. So it's like Cloud9, they beat NRG, they really rode that high, and then they had the rematch against Weedham girls, and that first series was really close and really intense. And then Cloud9 just kind of stomped over Weedham girls. Weedham girls didn't look like how they normally do, right?
Yeah.
So it just goes to show it's like coming off a loss, it is really hard to pick yourself back up. And it's really where that lower bracket momentum comes from.
Okay, so then let's talk about Cloud9's playstyle, because this has to be, we have to talk about this. The first thing that I sort of noticed rewatching it is that Cloud9 played incredibly aggressive. And one example is just the demos and the bumps. Like the amount of demos and bump goals that they had, especially in that first series, is pretty crazy. No one does that to Dignitas, it feels like, or at least you don't see that. It seems like Dignitas creates so much pressure that other teams can't even do that. But Cloud9 was like very aggressive and bump heavy. Do you have any thoughts on that, or did you see that as well?
The overall aggression that Cloud9 is really just awesome to see all the time. The other thing you say, it's a good point you say that no one does that to Dig, because one of the best things about Cloud9 is they're not fazed by the other teams. Right? Cloud9 play their playstyle against even the best team in the world, and you need that to beat Dig. So you saw them doing these crazy demo plays that other teams kind of back off against Dig because they're a bit more scared of Dig, but Cloud9 just played their playstyle.
So this is something I saw. In the first series, Cloud9 does not look super flashy versus Dignitas.
Yep.
But then they get into the second series and we start seeing like everybody, Torment included, just like spinning. And I know Gimmick that's how he plays, so that's his game, but then Squishy starts going for more flip resets, and it was like, it was over in my opinion at that point. Like I knew.
Oh, it definitely was.
Yeah, it was over. And do you think that Cloud9, that's part of their playstyle too? That like sort of free, just like, I feel like that's been going on since like season 4. Like they're just very.
Yeah, Cloud9 have always been a very free team. You're right, and you can see it. And obviously, teams can only really do that when they're comfortable. Everyone was kind of flaming Gimmick and saying he was trolling, but it was more the fact that Cloud9 was so comfortable on stage that that's just what they do. The pros just can do that, and it's just not a negative detriment to them. Pros, like you see them on their streams and free plays, they go for these like freestyle-ish kind of goals where they're spinning. That's what I was kind of saying, where they're not trolling, they're genuinely so comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
And they were so comfortable in the moment that they didn't think not to do that.
That sort of gets at the point of them being, you used the word exotic for Dignitas. You said that you think Cloud9 is an exotic Rocket League team for a team like Dignitas. Can you kind of explain what you mean by that?
So the kind of point I was making there was Dignitas have crushed everyone, especially Europe. So coming into this RLCS, Dignitas just had that crazy season. No team could touch them. And then I knew Dignitas were worried about coming up against Cloud9 because they're just that bit of an unknown factor. Dignitas was so confident. They knew all the EU playstyles. They would have been very comfortable against any European team, but Cloud9 had that exotic question mark on them.
Yeah, and it's partially because of them being a North American team, but it's also them in particular. Not just, you know what I mean? Like not just that they're a North American team, it's that they're that North American team. They're the scary North American team.
Like, you know, it's like you have Squishy, the ceiling shotter. You have Gimmick, the tornadoer. It's like they're a creative team. So they're a bit different. They're a bit edgy. Something that flies really under the radar of everyone is how good Cloud9's defense is. They're very organized in defense. Across the league play and the RLCS, they had the lowest goals per game conceded. And I know personally when playing against them, they're just always back. It's so annoying. They're always making these crazy saves. And you like, they look crazy, but in reality, they're always making those crazy saves. It's just, they're such a defensive team, but it doesn't even seem like it.
Yeah, I mean, with Dignitas, you can really see it too. If you watch that series, both those series, it's like they created a lot of pressure, but when Dignitas did have the pressure, they didn't cave under it. Like they would be low on boost and their rotations and everything are so on point that they would just make, like you said, these insane saves and like get themselves out of it. And then,
yeah, and they're just always back.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a huge point. I think it's a huge factor in why they were able to beat Dignitas. It's game 3.
5-0.
That's the game.
Holy shit.
Game 3, they won 5-0 and scored a 0-second goal, which is like whatever, a 0-second goal when you're up 4 goals. That was like such a clincher because they just beat Dignitas 5-0. Like, what? Nobody who does this.
Game 3 as well, 3-0 up.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the situation. The first thing is just this idea of a home crowd advantage and how huge that is. So let me throw out a statistic and then you can kind of explain this as a player who's been there. So in terms of statistics, there have been only 2 teams that have won not on their home field or their home turf. And you said those were seasons 3 and seasons 4.
Yep.
And then other than that, all of the other teams have won on their own turf, basically. So as a player, how is that a factor for you? Or for, Dignitas in this case?
It's very comforting to have the crowd behind you. It kind of lets you just play how you want to play and just be more comfortable. Mm-hmm. Because you feel like you can do anything and it's kind of okay, right?
Yeah.
The other point is, when you hear the crowd chanting for the other team as well, that can get in your head in a negative way, and it can also spiral the other team down. So the crowd plays a really big factor.
It looked like Dignitas was not playing as well as they normally play. And so when you rewatch that series and you compare it to the Dignitas of all of season 6 and even 5, like they were not playing. There's probably a lot of factors to that, but it isn't just that Cloud9 came in and just railroaded the best team, in the world. Dignitas was not on top of their game. And maybe Cloud9 forced that, you know what I mean? Maybe their aggression and all that stuff forced that as the series went on. But I think that is a factor. So
it's definitely, it would have been a mixture of a few things. So you're right. It's like Cloud9 being just different, being a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
You had Dignitas probably holding themselves to a really high standard. Like they would not have been happy with second. So they probably pressured themselves more than which was healthy.
Yeah.
And then going on to the crowd point, the crowd then becomes an amplifier for those bad situations. So when you hear the crowd cheering for the other team when you're not in a particularly good mood, it just makes your mood worse.
Yeah.
It's like being around happy people when you're grumpy. It's not a good time.
Okay, so then in terms of situation as well, let's talk a little bit about the players of Cloud9. What did you see in Gimmick and Torment and Squishy in particular? Like
the whole tournament, Torment had just been popping off. Torment had always been known as that kind of more reserved player on the team, and it's always Squishy and Gimmick really pushing forward. But Torment just absolutely popped off all tournament, and especially against Dig, went absolutely crazy. Got 1.2 goals per game across both series, which is just like unheard of.
Wow.
In professional play. And then Gimmick's like always just looks like he's overperforming, right?
Yeah.
He's that good that like he just looks like he's overperforming all the time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And he always is, right? I mean, he averaged a goal as well, right? Or something like that.
Yeah. He averaged a goal, got 10 goals across 10 games. He's nutty, but that's just Gimmick. And then you brought up that you felt Squishy really played further back during the final.
Basically, Squishy, we watch him on stream, we watch his videos, and it's like we see a certain play style and we see what he's capable of. But the thing about Squishy is when it comes down to like the tournaments, and I see this as him developing into this, especially this season, he's learned to be the leader. So basically, like a lot of times what happens is leaders, like team leaders, sort of play that anchor role or whatever you want to call it, where it's not about being flashy, it's not about scoring all the goals, it's about winning and like doing whatever you have to do to win. And in his case, you said that he had the most saves, he played the best, I mean, he played incredible defense, and he was just like a solid rock for them. He looked like Torment in some ways in this series.
He really swapped roles with Torment, you're right. I've really been impressed with Squishy's development. You can just see it in his tweets. He's becoming really grounded and humble, and I'm really not surprised. Like that makes a lot of sense when you say he brings on that leadership role, because he's really becoming a selfless kind of character. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, it's so cool. So this last point that I wanted to, or that you had thought of, like you had wanted to bring this up, is just this idea of Cloud9 as this team that is persistent, like incredibly persistent and driven.
Yeah.
And Squishy's a good example of this, but it's true of all of them. And then also the idea of this team as a long-running team. Like if you're new to Rocket League, you're new to RLCS, a lot of people won't realize this, but Cloud9's been a team for a long time. Is that right?
Oh, they've been together for almost 2 years, I think.
which is the longest running roster in RLCS currently, correct?
Yeah, they're definitely the longest running, for sure.
One of the keys to competitive Rocket League and RLCS is longevity, like just being a team that's been around for a long time and played together for a long time. That's a huge factor. So
yeah, they've, especially like Squishy and Torment, they've also had a pretty rough history. They missed out on RLCS way back with Iris and Luchino. So they've had their success. Like they blew up initially winning that DreamHack under the Muffin Men. But ever since then, it's like every time they haven't reached their goals, they just came back stronger. And then they finally got like the big prize of RLCS, and they absolutely deserved it.
So cool. It's such a cool story. Like, you can't not love it.
Yeah, on home soil, crowd with you, the passive player popping off. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's so good. So again, if you guys want, make sure to check out Jake's YouTube channel, his Twitch, his private coaching on Gamers Ready, and then also the free coaching sort of mechanic thing you're doing in Discord. Is that free?
Yeah. So for the first 3 weeks, it's open to everyone, and it's just talking about how to develop those like really basic mechanics to get you to grand champ, like fast aerials, dribbling, stuff like that.
Sweet. Seriously, I know a lot of you guys who watch my videos could use something like that. So check out the link for that. And yeah, that's really awesome that you're doing that. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.